Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another faction focus video for Warhammer the Old World. We're almost done with these. Today we're going to be checking out the Widows, a faction which during 8th edition, as a Skaven main, I always really suffered against. So it's nice to see them back up and running. Obviously Athel Loren is a very important place in Warhammer Fantasy lore and very much attached to Bretonnia. So yeah, we're going to talk about them. As per usual, I won't be going over every single page, but I will be going over the special rules, faction rules, rosters, and all that usual type of stuff. This is done out of respect to Games Workshop, who were kind enough to provide the books early. Don't you worry, there will be loads of other videos coming out in the future. I have an idea list of over 120 ideas at the moment, not counting everything that's already released or already recorded. So yeah, we're going to be in for a fun time, guys. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin, because there's a lot of things to talk about. So first things first, we have to talk about the faction roster. For characters, you can have up to 50% of your army, and this is a choice of 0 to 1 Glade Lords or Spellweavers per 1,000 points. 0 to 1 Treeman Ancients per 1,000 points, and then finally you've got Glade Captains, Spell Singers, Shadow Dancers, Waystalkers, and Branch Wraiths. As per usual, core must be 25% of your army, and that could be 1+ units of Glade Guard. Then you've got Eternal Guard, Dryads, and Glade Riders as core, and finally, up to 1 unit of Deepwood Scouts may be taken as core per 1,000 points. When we go into special, we've got 50% of your army composition can be that. That is Deepwood Scouts, once again, Wildwood Rangers, War Dancers, Sisters of the Fawn, Wild Riders, Warhawk Riders, and up to 2 units of Treekin per 1,000 points. And finally, we've got rare choices, which is Treemen, 0 to 1 units of Way Watchers per Waystalker taken. So yeah, these have a few restrictions, a few more than expected. And then finally, 0 to 3 Great Eagles per 1,000 points. Which, yeah, your Great Eagle spam still remains. Overall, everything's quite cool. The roster is on par with that of 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy, which is the last edition before the world blew up. That's probably the best way of saying it. But in general, yeah, you'll be fine. You've got really good range, you've got good melee. So yeah, let's move on. It's a small roster though, so keep that in mind. Alright, so we do have a decent amount of special rules to talk about. The first one being Elven Reflexes. A model with a special rule, but not its mount, has a +1 modifier to its initiative characteristic to a maximum of 10 during the first round of any combat. So yeah, you're going to be hitting a little bit faster than most, because Elves, I mean, that's always been the case, right? At least they don't all have strike first, so yeah, there's some ways to negate their initiative if you're playing as other factions, and yeah, it's just a bit better, right? Next, we have Talismanic Tattoos. So anything that has that special rule has a 6-up ward save against any wounds suffered. Next, we have Tree Spirit. A character with this special rule cannot join a unit without this special rule. A unit with this special rule cannot be joined or use the leadership characteristic of a character without this special rule too. However, a unit with this special rule can use the leadership characteristic of a friendly character. So it's important to know that as long as you're in the command range. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It's just the distinction between elves and tree spirits there. Now, we've got Tree Whack. Once per turn during the combat phase, a model with this special rule may use one of its attacks to make a single Tree Whack attack. To make a Tree Whack attack, nominate a single model within an enemy unit that is engaged in combat to be the target of the attack. Sorry about that, my cat is just being really annoying. That model must immediately make an initiative test. If the test has failed, they suffer D3 hits, each with a strength characteristic of the model, with no armor save allowed, but you can still do ward saves and regeneration. If you pass it, well, you can avoid it, right? So, cool. And we have one special rule remaining, which I know some players are going to be very happy about, Woodland Ambush. Once players have finished placing terrain, a Wood Elf Realms player may place 1 additional wood measuring between 8 and 12 inches at its widest point. This may be placed anywhere on the battlefield that is not within their opponent's deployment zone and not within 12 inches of the center of the battlefield. Not only does that allow you to have some specific cover for your own faction, but keep in mind that a lot of your stuff can move through cover without too much of a problem. So yeah, I mean, you can have that pretty much near your deployment. Get your guards in there, get your archers in there, and just use that as a defensive line. This is a benefit to you, and obviously there is a tree kit which is kind of stripped down, sold by Games Workshop. You can make your own, by the way. You don't have to use GW terrain. You just make your own if you want to, or buy some pre-done ones from other websites. Okay, we're going to talk about magic now, and obviously there's a distinction between your two different types of spellcasters. You have access to Wood Elf mages who can get battle magic, elementalism, high magic, and illusion. I said two, but there's actually three, because your Treeman Ancient can also be a spellcaster. They have access to battle magic and elementalism, and finally the Branch Wraiths, which is your third, I keep forgetting that these exist, have access to battle magic, elementalism, and illusion. So you have a few different laws of magic in the core section. Now we have to talk about the lore of Athel Loren, because that's back, and obviously using this new race-specific lore, which is a little bit stripped down. There's only 3 spells here. And how this works is, if your character can actually use the lore of Athel Loren, anything from the core laws that you've had, you can switch out for the lore of Athel Loren spells. So there are 3, let's talk about them. The first one being Tree Singing. This is a magical vortex, a casting value of 7+, and 9+, and a range of 15 inches. With its effect being as follows: remains in play. If this spell is cast with a result of 7 or more, place a 3-inch small blast template so that the center of its hole is centered within 15 inches of the caster. If this spell is cast with a result of 9 or more, place the large template 5 inches so that its central hole is within 15 inches of the caster. Whilst in play, the template does not move and is treated as a woodland terrain feature. Enemy units must treat these woods as dangerous terrain. So you get a bonus of it being cover and obviously a bit of protection, and the enemy will need to try and avoid that, or else they'll potentially lose some units. Next we have Forest Walker. This is a conveyance spell, casting value of 10+, and a range of 24 inches. The effect is as follows: this spell can only target a friendly Wood Elf character that is completely within a woodland terrain feature. If the target is not fleeing, you may immediately remove it from the battlefield and replace it so that it is completely within a different wood anywhere on the battlefield, but not within 6 inches of enemy models. This target cannot move again during the movement phase, but it can actually shoot. So yes, Elven teleporting is back once again for the Wood Elves, which is pretty devastating. I can imagine that some Wood Elf players are also just laughing maniacally in the background. But let's go into the last one. This is Flock of Doom, a magic missile, casting value of 9+ and a range of 18 inches, and its effect is as follows: place a small 3-inch blast template so that its central hole is directly over the center of the target enemy. Any enemy model whose base lies underneath the template risks being hit by a single strength 3 hit with an AP of -1. Good God, my cat is going insane today. So yeah, you've got some pretty good spells. You know, you've got Summoning Woods, you've got the Teleporters too, and then Flock of Doom. Overall, I'm quite happy with this. I feel like a lot of Wood Elves are going to be happy in general. Again, I would always prefer if we had full laws, but still, this is better than nothing, right? Like, this is still really, really themed. Okay, so we have to talk about the weapons of Athel Loren. These are special weapons that are specific to your race. For example, Azrael Longbow is 32 inches strength as character. No AP there, but you do have Armor Bane 1 and Volley Fire, which is really, really good overall. I mean, 32-inch range, I think it's probably the longest for a longbow that I've seen so far. And then obviously we have to talk about ways to get some AP or even some different types of damage with the enchanted arrows. So you've got the option to get some enchanted arrows with certain units, and this is how you modify your weapon. And there's 5 different types. So Arcane Bodkins give you AP of -2, which is pretty damn good. Next, you've got Hagbane Tips, which give you poison attacks. Again, very, very cool. Moonfire Shot is next, which gives you the flaming attacks and magical attack special rules. Again, pretty good on anything that's susceptible to flaming. Swift Shiver Shards give you the multiple shots 2 special rule. So if you've got a front rank of 8, which is going to be the common thing for shooting units, then you're going to get 16 shots from there, and then with Volley Fire you'll get some more shots coming from behind anyway. And then lastly, you've got True Flight Arrows, which gives you ignores cover and quick shot special rules, which, again, very, very cool. So you can kind of tailor your faction, your arrows at least, to what you're going to be fighting against. And I kind of like this. Honestly, the only thing that I'm a bit confused about is that you're not getting magical attacks with everything, because, yeah, they're classified as enchanted arrows, so they all really should have magical attacks. but I guess it's for balancing purposes, which again, yeah, if it's for balancing, that's perfectly fine. Sprites are a thing again, and these do not count as magical items, by the way, so anything that negates magical items won't negate this. Obviously, that's quite useful. There's not really that many, so we're actually going to talk about all of them. A Blight of Terrors is 50 points. This model and any unit is joined gains the Terror special rule, which, again, very, very good. A Muster of Malevolence is 40 points, and this can only be used by Wood Elf Nobles and Waystalkers only. An enemy model hit by one or more shooting attacks made by this model's Azrael Longbow suffers an additional D3 Strength 2 hits, each with an AP of minus, so that would be the minus that you have. These hits have an Armor Bane of 1 special rule also. A Befundlement of Mischiefs is 30 points. During the combat phase, a single enemy unit that is in base contact with this model suffers a -1 modifier to both its weapon skill and initiative, which is pretty damn tasty. For 30 points, I mean, yeah. A Murder of Sprites is 25 points. When this model's combat is chosen during step 1 of the combat phase, a single enemy unit is engaged with suffers D3 Strength 2 hits with an AP of -1. I keep calling these sprites, which was from a long time ago, but they're spites again, too, because they've had name changes. A Lamentation of Despairs is 20 points. Unless this model is fleeing, enemy units that are within 6 inches of this model suffer a -1 modifier to their leadership characteristic when making a fear, panic, or terror test. Very useful if you're going to be using loads of trees. An Annoyance of Netlings is 15 points. Whilst this model is engaged in a challenge, its opponent in the challenge suffers a -1 modifier to a hit, so if you're going to be building up a little bit of a killy Wood Elf character, that works for you. And finally, a Resplendence of Luminescence, 10 points. This model and any unit is joined gains the magical attack special rule. Overall, pretty good ones. These are going to help you kit out your characters a little bit more. They don't count as characters, so how this works is that you'll be able to have Forest Spites. I'm talking about a character here, Glade Lord, for example, can have 50 points of Forest Spites and 100 points of magical items, which is pretty damn tasty. It will admittedly make your characters pretty damn expensive, but you got 50% values there, so yeah, I mean, 1,000 points, you can spare a few points here and there. Obviously, just don't spend it all on that, you're going to want some other monsters, but yeah, it's all up to you. And lastly, we've got some pro and cons. This isn't going to be a long video, mostly because, like, the Wood Elves have always been pretty great. You've still got War Dancers, you've still got everything else. Really, when it comes to pros, very mobile. I mean, this is a faction which is pretty good for skirmishing. You've got quite a lot of movement with your fast cavalry stuff. You've got, obviously, teleporting spells, which is pretty damn good. You've got some of the best range in the game, basically on par, if not sometimes better, with that of the High Elves. Yes, I have seen some people complaining that there is a little bit of a nerf towards a bunch of the troops, particularly some Deepwood Scouts, but to be honest, I mean, you're still going to be very, very strong. Your melee damage is going to be quite strong too, because you've got stuff like, say for example, the Eternal Guard, which have got martial prowess, which allows them to fight in an extra rank if you've charged that turn, which is pretty damn tasty. Overall, this is a faction which is going to be incredibly mobile, so you don't have to worry too much about that. The con, I guess, is that a lot of your elves are very, very squishy, right? In melee, they'll be able to defend themselves, thankfully, due to pretty high weapon skill. But, you know, they are going to die in droves if you're up against a lot of other range, which is on par with you. Or, you know, something attacks you from behind and stuff. There's a lot of damage that can be done. Now, you do have access to Dryads, but keep in mind that they are flammable, so they will take extra damage from flaming attacks. Pretty much all your trees will, because, I mean, you know, wood. So anyone who's going to be pairing against you is likely going to bring any fire attacks, unless you are the type of person that just brings a lot of elves, and people just don't know what you're going to be bringing. Overall, I'd say that the Wood Elves are in a very good spot. There's loads of room for experimentation, and yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of them. I've also feared them quite heavily. I used to play Skaven a lot during 8th edition, so that was obviously a big reason why. The only thing I'm really curious about is to find out what they've got planned for Armies of Infamy. I'd love to see the option of having a BSB Dryad character, because that would be really, really nice. And I'd kind of like to see some sort of list in the future for Laurelon Forest, which is supposed to be High Elven meets Wood Elven. It would be really cool to see the Meadow Chariot back. It's kind of odd that we just didn't see this return here, because I know a lot of people who have that model. Weirdly enough, like if you go on eBay, you can find the Meadow Chariot fairly often. But that's more looking towards the future, I guess. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. We've only got one more left, which should come out tomorrow, and then I've got a bunch of other videos planned out. There is a lot of content coming, so don't you worry. I'm super excited. I can't wait. It's been great. See you guys very, very soon. Have a good day.